there, and welcome into another edition of the JayMac Podcast. So glad that you are here with us as we answer an important question. What can we learn about COVID-19 from a body collector? I know, what a strange title for a podcast. We'll also learn a little bit about driving a motorcycle without a helmet and suicides in the state of Utah. But before we do that, I want to remind you to please take a minute and make a donation, become a patron of this podcast so that we can continue to bring you fearless honesty every single day and bring some clarity and some reason to the issues of the day. Just click on the link in this podcast or go to our social media. You'll see a link there. $1 a month, $5 a month, $10 a month, whatever you can afford will help me to be able to pay the cost to produce this podcast and also be able to bring you, again, that fearless honesty. So here's the secret that you probably don't know. My daughter is a body collector. Now, I'll let her describe to you what that means. This is a side hustle for her. So, but I want to let you know that there's a lot of things that can be learned from somebody in this type of profession. So, without further ado, let me introduce you to my daughter, Rachel. So, I want to introduce you to my daughter, Rachel, who has a day job, but she has taken on a side hustle. Can I call it a side hustle?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a side hustle. And it's a side hustle that if you go online and you search for side hustles, you're not going to see this one. In fact, I have no idea how you found it, but for our listeners, tell them what it is that you do to make money on this side.
I am now working in body recovery and transport.
Body recovery and transport. So,
yeah.
So explain to our listeners what this looks like.
So we work with the medical examiner in Utah and a couple other mortuaries in the state. And anytime somebody dies, we get a call and we go pick them up and take them wherever they need to go.
So your job is literally to just recover dead bodies.
Yes.
And you tell me that you're having so much fun doing this.
Yeah.
Okay, let's back up. We'll back up a little bit. Why on earth did you consider this? And how did you get involved?
So I am applying to start mortuary school in the fall. I am studying to become a mortician. So I was doing some of that initial research about what it takes and what things you should consider when going into that kind of work. And something a lot of morticians say is to get experience in the death industry before you start paying a lot of money on tuition and then realize that you don't like dead bodies. So somebody recommended funeral transportation, and I assumed that was basically going to be like Uber Eats for dead people. Like, I thought I was just going to be driving the car.
Yeah, like at a funeral, like from the church to the grave.
Right, like somebody's already got the body in the coffin, and I just wear a nice suit and I drive the hearse. That's what I thought I was applying for. That's not what I'm doing. That's not what I'm doing at all.
Not even close.
No. We're the ones with the rubber gloves and sometimes a shovel and a lot of hand sanitizer.
And the body bags and all of that.
Yep. So we do crime scenes. We do just if somebody's passed away in their home. We do when you find a random body in a desert that's a murder victim and they have no idea where it came from. We're the ones we do all that.
So the medical examiner comes out first, right?
No. So the first person that comes out is the investigator.
Okay.
And each county has their own investigator. They're called out with the police, and they're the ones who they take the pictures, they catalog the crime scene if it's a crime scene or a homicide, they gather all the evidence, and then they call us. We go pick up the body, and we take the body to the medical examiner, who then determines cause of death.
Okay, so the medical examiner is after you.
Yes.
But I don't want to be too graphic here, but you walk into a scene, you don't know what you're going to see.
That's half the fun. It's always a surprise.
Do not say that is half the fun. And so if it's a suicide victim, if it's somebody who died of old age, if it's COVID, if it's something like that, then you and how many other people come in and your job is to remove that body?
Yeah, so we usually usually go in pairs. Sometimes we go by ourselves if we're busy, but it's usually two of us. And we go in and we assess the situation, and sometimes it's really easy and somebody just passed away very peacefully in their bed, and you talk to the family and you just take them out, and it's really easy and it's simple. And sometimes it's a train accident or a car crash that's really violent, and it can get less simple, but there's a lot of problem solving. There's a lot of, if you have just two of you and you need to move a 400-pound person, how do you do that? How you have to figure it out. How do
you do that?
It depends. Most of the time you use a bed sheet. It's the secret tool of the trade in body moving. It's like a towel in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. You never want to be caught without a bed sheet.
Without your towel. Without your sheet.
Yep.
And so you thought about getting into this. How have you found it? Do you like it? Do you want to continue towards mortuary school now? Yeah,
I really love it. Everybody who works in this industry they're incredible to work with. All of the investigators, the people on scene, the medical examiners, the embalmers that we work with, everybody is so kind and so respectful and so interesting, because this is not a normal career path that you think of.
No.
So the people who find themselves in this industry tend to have really interesting stories about how they got there. And the more I learn and the more I interact with this industry and with people who have passed away, I'm more and more interested in the kind of community service that comes from helping people after they've died.
In the family's worst moment.
The family's worst day and the worst moment of the end of that person's life. I get to step in and I get to help.
All right, so let me ask you a few questions. Biggest surprise about moving bodies?
They're heavy. I mean, you know that going in, but it's very different. And I won't get too graphic, but if somebody has been there for a minute and they have rigor mortis, then they're really heavy and they don't move.
Right.
So if
they died sitting up, getting them into a body bag is very difficult.
Very difficult. And rigor mortis was also really surprising to me, because if somebody dies sitting up, they will stay sitting up. So you can lay them down in a body bag and they'll sit right back up. You might want to cut that out.
No, that's okay. I want people to understand. I mean, part of the reason I wanted to talk to you is that this is a part of life that none of us think about. None of us want to think about it.
Right.
And there's a whole industry behind it. And I'll give you an example of some things that you've said to me. For example, tell me how dirty rooms apply to, like you mentioned something that you find a certain type of person in a dirty room.
Yeah, I very rarely, I think it's only happened once to me so far, I very rarely pick up a body from a clean bedroom.
Really?
And I'm sure there are probably a lot of things that go into it with being able to care for yourself and your mental health and things like that. But I very rarely have ever experienced that. Most of the time, these bedrooms that we go into are incredibly messy. They're not kept, they're not cared for. And it just makes me want to keep my room a little cleaner. It makes me feel like maybe I can live another day. Not dying today, my room's clean.
Your room's clean, so you're good. What other types of revelations have you come across?
I am a huge advocate of wearing helmets if you ride motorcycles. The motorcycle accidents we get, they never ever wear a helmet. I have never had a motorcycle accident call where somebody died wearing a helmet. That's anecdotal. I'm sure it has happened, but statistically, you might still have a severe injury if you get an accident, but you're much less likely to die. And the accidents that we see of people who have crashed on a motorcycle not wearing a helmet, they're incredibly severe and a little hard to watch, a little hard to see. So every time I see somebody now on a bike without a helmet, I just wonder if that's going to be a future call. It breaks my heart a little bit.
Yeah, in fact, we've been doing this thing with you. We see a news report and we hear somebody died from a motorcycle accident, and we immediately text you to find out, were you the one who picked that person up? And a lot of times it was you.
A lot of the times it was me, yeah.
What I'm curious, a lot of people, not a lot, but there's enough of the conspiracy theorists out there that say that COVID-19 is a total hoax. What is your perspective as a body collector regarding COVID-19?
So I have become incredibly passionate about this topic because I see it firsthand. The company I work with, the mortuary I work with, is one of the only ones who is willing to work with COVID bodies because there's such a concern around that. So we're getting the majority of the cases in Utah. So I'm seeing firsthand what these numbers look like. And what we're seeing is we are picking up almost double the number of COVID bodies every 2 weeks. We have one of the largest body freezers in the state. The medical examiner beats us because there's only one in all of Utah. Right. But our freezer can hold 30 people, and we have been at capacity and over capacity for a long time now. And it's because COVID cases just keep coming in. And a lot of the times we have to go into these COVID wards to pick up the people. So we're seeing the COVID wards firsthand. And when I go in to pick up a body, they have, it's a very strange environment. It almost feels like some kind of apocalypse movie because these are buildings that were not meant to house this kind of pandemic. Yeah. And so they've got plastic wrap everywhere. You have to zipper in and out because there's negative air pressure set up. You go into a room that is now a clean room that you can tell used to be the employee break room, and now it's set up to help you scrub down. You have to put on a gown, a mask, a face shield, gloves. You have to do the whole shebang before you can even get inside the building. Most of the time you have to go through the back because the front entrance is completely sealed off. So it's incredibly serious. And that's just to pick up somebody who has already passed away from this virus. So it's very sobering, and I get really frustrated when I hear people talk about how, it's not as bad as the flu. Okay, I'm not picking up people dying from the flu, but I am personally picking up more and more and more COVID bodies every single week. And it's not just old people. The majority of people that I personally have picked up are in their 40s and 50s.
Wow.
And that number is just getting younger and younger and younger. So when people are saying, it's not going to affect me, it's not going to affect my family, it's not that serious, I just want to shake them a little bit because I am seeing it firsthand as a primary source. Let me tell you from my personal experience that this thing is serious. It's a big deal.
What else would you say if there was anything that jumps off the top of your mind? How has this changed you?
I think I'm a more compassionate person, which is interesting because you walk into these situations a lot of the time and family will be there and they're grieving and they're having this really emotional reaction to this traumatic event. And you can't really engage with that because you have a job to do.
Yeah.
So at the same time that you have to emotionally separate, you see so much more. It's like a peek behind the curtain. This is the part of our society that we don't really see. We kind of shove it away. We let other people do it. We don't really talk about it. And so getting to see behind this curtain just makes me really feel for the people in Utah right now. The by and large, far and away.
Sure, we'll take them all.
Make me sound good.
Yeah.
Edit that out. The majority of cases that I have seen that we get are suicides in Utah. And that's more than people passing away from old age. That's more than COVID cases. It's suicides. That's by far the most common call that we get. And it's really difficult, but it makes me really feel for these people because these are people where you walk into sometimes beautiful houses with lovely families and they've got so much love and so much support, and it just shows you that it doesn't really matter what your circumstances is. It doesn't matter what the situation is. Mental illness doesn't only pick one type of person.
Yeah, what a powerful message.
It's been really eye-opening because, that can affect anybody and everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. One last question for you. What on earth did your mom and I do to drive you in the direction of wanting to be a body collector?
I'll tell you the exact moment.
Okay.
The exact moment where my fate was sealed was when I was at the library with Mom when I was like 7, and I picked up a copy of Edgar Allan Poe's complete works, and she told me I wasn't allowed to read it.
Uh-huh.
So, of course, I spirited it away and read it in secret by myself, and it's all her fault.
So when you were 7, this was set in motion.
Oh, yeah. My fate was sealed.
Unbelievable. Well, Rachel, I know you're tired because you've been out collecting bodies all weekend. We'll let you go, but thanks for sharing your amazing experience. I think there's a lot to be learned from your perspective.
Thanks for having me.
All right, Rach. I'll talk to you later. So there you have it. Some fascinating information from my daughter, the body collector. Better to keep your room clean, apparently, and wear a helmet if you drive a motorcycle. Be aware that mental illness affects all types, all socioeconomic classes, and also be aware that COVID-19 is very real, and she sees that every single day. I think some very important information. I still can't, for the life of me, figure out what has driven her in this direction, but she loves it, and she's going to continue to pursue it. And for that, I say good for you.